Greetings, Earthlings. I usually do deck techs based on real life, but I want to try something. Hold on. No. You're not. No. I don't care that I ripped on you. You are not stealing this from me. Get out of here. Wrong game. I'm talking about a commander I begrudgingly built around Muldrotha the Gravetide. Now, don't get me wrong, this Kentucky Fried Bog monster from the depths of a Stephen King movie still draws out my hatred to the point of wanting to whip out the Youngling Slayer 5000 and storm the Jedi Temple, but this dumpster fire is only the surface level commander for the true purpose of this deck. What inspired this build is a fun mechanic known as Transfigure. It's a neat mechanic, present on creatures where you pay a cost, sacrifice it, and go get a creature out of your deck, with the same CMC and drop it right into play, kind of like a black green sun zenith. Now, in the entirety of Magic's vast history, an enormous card selection that easily surpasses 25,000 at this point, there exists a grand total of one card that has this ability. Ladies and gentlemen, Phyrexians and Eldrazi, allow me to introduce you to Fleshwrither. For 2 and 2 black, we've got ourselves a 3/3 horror with the ability Transfigure. For 1 and 2 black, you sacrifice this creature. Go into your deck, pull out a creature with the same CMC as a sacrificed creature, and drop it right into play. The only caveat to this is that you can only do it at sorcery speed. Now, you may be wondering, how in the blue hell can you build a deck around a single card? Well, isn't that the beauty of Commander? What do you do when you can only have one card with an effect that you want more of? Clone it. The beauty of Fleshwrither's CMC is that most clone cards are also 4-drops. So that's why cards like Clever Impersonator, Sakashima of 1,000 Faces, the original clone, and a really fun one, Mirror Hall Mimic, are great in a deck like this where not only can you fish them out with Transfigure, but you can recast them out of your graveyard with Muldrotha. The beautiful part about Mirror Hall Mimic, though, is its disturb ability. For 3 and 2 blue, you exile it from your graveyard and it becomes an aura known as Ghastly Mimicry. At the beginning of your upkeep, you create a free token of enchanted creature. So you slap that on Fleshwrither and you get a free Transfigure creature every turn. Want to shell out even more? Have Clever Impersonator enter the battlefield as a copy of Ghastly Mimicry, and you can crap out 2 tokens a turn. Need ways to get your boy back out, but not enough mana to play old Junkrat yet? Dread Return, Kaya's Ghost Form, and Reanimator are some very well-known staples for that kind of strategy. Running Dictate of Erebos is a good way to flash speed oopsie your opponent's creatures for yours dying. You can also use Transfigure to fish out Timeless Witness and freely bounce it to your hand. The fact that 4 is the magic number in this deck means we get to run some of Magic's grossest 4-drops like Pitiless Plunderer, Shieldred the Apocalypse, and a new kid on the block, Barbed Servitor. Need some good ETB abilities? 4-drops like Ravenous Chupacabra, Amphin Mutineer, and Commander staple Solemn Simulacrum can get you some much needed removal or value. But don't worry, there's more than one way to fish creatures out. Most decks in the format care about card draw, but this one is heavily reliant on tutoring. So aside from the staples like Demonic Tutor and Diabolic Intent, I run more specific ones like Birthing Pod, Fiend Artisan, Neoform, Eldritch Evolution, Yisan the Wanderer Bard, and Prime Speaker Vanifar. Because we run a few key creatures with activated abilities, we want them to be as cheap as possible. So running cards like Training Grounds and Biomancer's Familiar can be really helpful in conserving our mana for other things. Running token generators like Arasta, Scoot Swarm, and Chatterfang can be really helpful to add some gas to some of the aforementioned cards and the always useful Ashnod's Altar. For the protection package, I run your typical staples like Heroic Intervention, Veil of Summer, and Lightning Greaves. I'm not running Swifties because the haste really isn't important when you consider Transfigure isn't a tap ability. There's the typical ramp package of Sol Ring, Arcane Signet, Golgari, and Dimir Signets, and Mindstone. I don't run Simic Signet because this deck is very black heavy. I run 36 lands, a good chunk being your dual and tri lands, but I also run Urborg, 9 swamps, 5 islands, and 5 forests. Chromatic Lantern is usually a clunky mana fixer, but it's very helpful in a deck like this. It's also important to note about the clone cards that when you clone a permanent, it also gains that creature's mana value. So if you dropped in a 3 CMC clone and targeted Fleshwrither, it would become a 4 CMC, and thus would still transfigure out a 4-drop. I'd also like to note that Clever Impersonator, much like Xur the Enchanter's ability, bypasses Shroud if it becomes an aura. How auras work is they target a source on cast, but if an aura enters the battlefield beforehand, that target clause becomes choose. So because Clever Impersonator becomes the aura upon entering the battlefield, you would then choose what the creature goes on to. So you can choose a Lightning Greaves equipped creature. Now, there do exist a few things that either limit your tutoring or outright stop it, but that's why running cards like Rex Sage, Feed the Swarm, and the aforementioned Ravenous Chupacabra can get you out of the situations. The fact that Transfigure is a sorcery speed ability is extremely limited and kind of leaves the creature at the will of your opponents. But if you can manage to do it every turn and keep your graveyard from getting exiled with recursion effects or shuffling it back into your library with cards like Midnight Clock, then with Swamp Rat there, you should be able to do it every turn, and sometimes more than once with the clone abilities. Now, because it's the least printed mechanic, maybe next to Fortify, almost no one will see it coming, and you can get up to some interesting shenanigans. Again, the fact that it's sorcery speed can turn people off of it, but don't let that stop you from trying out weird and unorthodox abilities and synergies. So, with all that out of the way, I have a deck list, as usual, posted on Moxfield. I really like building decks in this kind of format in abilities that you don't normally see, especially something like this, because it's kind of random and it's fun. So, with all that out of the way, make sure you rap the like button and tap that subscribe button. Play safe, and I bid thee farewell.